Hi everybody. I just wanted to take some time to really create just a reel discussing something that is very important to all women everywhere, and it's very dear to my heart, and that is the topic of midwife attended home births. In my home state of Nebraska, we are the only state in the United States that still prohibits certified nurse midwives from attending home births. On top of that, although certified professional midwives are not included in our legislature, they are still prosecuted if they do attend home births. So essentially, a mother choosing to have a home birth in the state of Nebraska must do it by herself or secretly hire a midwife to come and attend her birth, which puts the midwife at risk of prosecution by the state of Nebraska. For the last 40 years, Nebraskan mothers and families and Nebraskans who care about this have been pushing for legislation to license midwives to attend home births. And for the last 40 years, these attempts have been foiled primarily by the hospital lobbies, the Nebraska Medical Association. And we are at a critical juncture. We are on the cusp of something monumental. This year, a combination of legislative bills which have been merged into one bill known as an omnibus. We're calling it a momnibus because it's just cute. A combination of bills has been put forward. It has passed out of committee and is now before the Senate being debated. They debated it partially last week, and it is to be scheduled and debated possibly next week and then voted on. If it passes in 3 months, women in Nebraska can legally hire a certified professional midwife or a certified nurse midwife to attend their home births. On top of that, they can hire a doula, and if they have Medicaid, the doula can be reimbursed through Medicaid, which increases the number of women who have access to critical care when they are prenatal, currently pregnant, and postnatal. This is a critical bill. It is called Legislative Bill 676 or LB676. The 3 bills that have been combined are LB676, which gives certified nurse midwives the ability to attend home births. It also reduces restrictions that are currently on them. At this time, a certified nurse midwife cannot open their own practice unless an OB or some other doctor is over them. This significantly limits the freedom of certified nurse midwives, and it limits the access that women across the state of Nebraska have. March of Dimes has declared Nebraska as a maternal health care desert because so few women have access to health care, to maternal health care, to obstetric health care, to anything that a woman needs to see a specific kind of person for, okay? Thousands of women in the state of Nebraska, especially in rural communities, don't have access to the care they need, and they have to drive 1-2 hours, sometimes more. Hospitals are closing all over this state. And on top of that, we only have, oh, just kidding, we don't have any freestanding birth centers. We had one in Lincoln, which was taken over by one of our hospital chains, and they closed it the next year. Why? Because they want to eliminate competition. The only other birth center in Nebraska is attached to a hospital, And so many women are risked out of that, pushed on to the hospital ward. Women don't want that. Women want the choice of where they deliver and with whom they deliver. And that is our right. Our right. Not the hospital, not the lobbies. That's the right of the Nebraskan women, Nebraskan families, who are educated and intelligent enough to discern if the risks outweigh the benefits. And let me give you a few statistics to show you that the benefits are pretty amazing, okay? I've written them down. So, in the United States, in 2023, 1% of all births were at home. That was 46,918 babies delivered. 92% of them were by certified professional midwives. And since 2005, over 1,000 babies have been born at home in Nebraska. In Nebraska. So remember, women don't have access to certified nurse midwives or certified professional midwives in Nebraska. So how are these women delivering their babies at home? On their own or with covertly hired midwives. If these women do have to transfer to hospital care, there is no seamless way to do that without getting their hired midwife in trouble. That's not good care. I don't understand why, as a medical professional who is sworn to do no harm, you would not want women to have access to care. That's like the YMCA and Lifetime Fitness and any other fitness company who has a pool. They get together and they go to the Omaha pools, the city pools. They say, you're not allowed to have lifeguards anymore. The only place you can have lifeguards is at our gym. And if people don't come to our gym, then they're out of luck. Like, does that kind of logic make sense? It doesn't. Women need the right to choose. It is our right. We just need the legislation to back us up. And for 40 years, the legislation has been stopped because who has the money? The Nebraska Medical Association. Anyways, back to stats. For planned home births, 89.1% of planned home births successfully gave birth at home. 94.8% of those were vaginal deliveries. 87% of planned VBACs, that's a vaginal birth after cesarean, 87% were successful. Okay, let that sink in. 86% of mothers who gave birth at home were exclusively breastfeeding at 6 weeks because the oxytocin is there. Your body generates it naturally, which makes breastfeeding and bonding with your baby that much easier. Getting Pitocin and having your labor messed up with at the hospital does not facilitate a good nursing relationship with your baby, okay? It doesn't. You can still do it, but it's easier if things aren't messed around with. 97% of women who gave birth at home were satisfied or very satisfied with their birth. And for those of you who are worried about the safety of home birth versus hospital birth, the neonatal mortality rate in hospitals is 1.7 out of 1,000. The neonatal mortality rate at home is 2 out of 1,000. That is not a significant difference. It's not. On top of that, home births have lower rates of hemorrhage, lower rates of resuscitation, lower rates of infection. Get this, the hospital rates, 26%. Home birth rates, 0.7%. That is an insane difference, okay? Hospitals are for sick people, And some women, yes, they have a high-risk pregnancy. They have things that make their pregnancy a little bit dangerous and they need medical care, but most women don't. The rates of augmentation are lower. Augmentation is things like Pitocin, using tools to get the baby out, that kind of thing. Augmentation is augmenting the labor in some way. What's it called when they cut you? I can't remember what that's called off the top of my head right now. But just the rates are significantly lower in home births. C-section rates, this one might blow your mind. In a hospital, the rate of C-section in the United States is 32.8%. 1/3 of all women giving birth in the US, 1/3 of all women will have a C-section, whether that is necessary or not. And a home birth setting, only 5.2% of women will go in to have a C-section. And that is what it should actually be at. It should only be about 5, maybe 10% of women giving birth having C-sections. 32.8% is insanity. Our bodies are made to deliver babies. Again, I understand there are high-risk pregnancies, and that's why I'm saying 5 to 10%. And if you look at statistics, look it up yourself. Look at countries where they have a really high midwife presence, and you are going to see the stats on C-sections are very low. Okay? Anyways, third-degree tears for a hospital birth versus a home birth is half. Home births have half the amount of third-degree tears hospital births experience. They also have fewer rates of vacuuming the baby out, which I'm not saying like they're using like a real vacuum. They use something that goes on the baby's head and it suctions them out. It's called the vacuum. Anyway, happens less at home. Doesn't that sound nice? What a great way for your baby to be born, to not have to go through all of these augmentations, all of these just traumatic things that nobody should experience when they're being born. No one should experience that when they're giving birth. And finally, something I think we're all gonna love in this economy, the cost on average of a hospital birth is $18,000. My birth was over $30,000, but thankfully my insurance paid for the majority of it, and I only paid like $4,000 or $5,000 out of pocket, plus another $1,000 for my son. So $18,000 in the hospital birth. Let me tell you, the home birth is around $6,000. And that usually covers everything. All the prenatal visits, the labor itself, the supplies that the midwife needs to bring, and postnatal care. Because a lot of home birth midwives will actually come and follow up with the new mother several times. They'll also check on the baby several times. Home birth it's so much more about the mother. It's so much more about the family than a hospital birth. Why am I so passionate about this? In 2022, I had my firstborn son, and I desperately wanted a home birth, but I could not find resources. I could not find any of those covert midwives. And so I had to pick a hospital midwife, and she's been in the system long enough that she has lost her faith in the ability of women to give birth. And my birth was tampered with. My birth went completely wrong and ended up being a very traumatizing and diminishing experience. And honestly, I'm still affected by it. I'm still affected by it, and that was almost 3 years ago. In fact, the last time I was pregnant, which unfortunately ended in a miscarriage at 12 weeks, I knew I did not want a hospital birth. I knew it in the pit of my soul. I did not want a hospital birth. And at this point, I did have some connections to covert home birth midwives, but either no one would take me because of recent legislation against, not legislation, because of recent prosecution against two notable home birth midwives, or they just weren't available. So I literally had to start looking out of state to find a home birth midwife who would take me. I literally drove to Kansas City to find a home birth midwife. The stress was so intense for me because I knew I never wanted to go through a hospital birth again, and I didn't have a choice in Nebraska. I didn't have a choice. I was not going to give birth by myself because I want the support of a midwife. I want someone on my team. I don't want to give birth by myself. That's great for some women, but not for me. I want people to cheer me on. I want someone who is knowledgeable and experienced and trained to be there with me. Ultimately, I think the stress largely is what contributed to my miscarriage. And I hold the state of Nebraska and the Nebraska Medical Association and their lobbies responsible for the loss of my baby's life. Because without their efforts to prevent this kind of legislation from being passed in history, I wouldn't have been in that situation. I wouldn't have been driving out of state, back and forth, looking for someone to take me. I wouldn't have been considering moving out of state, out of Nebraska, which I love Nebraska, but I will move. I will, if I can't have what is my right to have, which is deciding who will be attending my birth and where I'll be having my baby. I really hope that this legislative bill passes. I don't think I fully explained the other bills. So LB676, which is the omnibus bill and was originally the certified nurse midwives bill. LB374 is CPM licensure, which would bring CPMs into Nebraska and allow them to legally attend home births. And CPMs are trained. They go to school for years. They attend years of hands-on apprenticeship. They have to pass a 300-question exam. Then they have to do continuing education and be recertified in the future. Like, they're not joking around. They are serious. They are trained, they are educated, and they are professionals. Okay? It's not dangerous. What's dangerous is blocking this legislation. And if your senator is blocking it, you need to seriously email them or just don't vote for them next time, because those are not the people we want in office, because they clearly don't care about Nebraskan families, and they are clearly more interested in what Nebraska Medical Association has to say. So the Nebraska Medical Association sees that this bill is in some portion likely to be passed. So they have put forth an amendment called Amendment 914, which strikes certified professional midwives from the bill. That means no CPMs. And remember, I said 92% of home births in 2023 in the US, 92% were attended by CPMs. So the Nebraska Medical Association wants to remove that from the bill, okay? And then, guess what else? They want to remove the ability for certified nurse midwives to attend home births. Do you see what's happening? They don't want anything to do with home birth passing in this state because they are more concerned about their pocket, their money, their business than they are about the well-being of Nebraskan women and families. If you haven't already, email your senators. Email all of them. I will send you a script. I will give you the facts. This is so vital. Next week, they could be voting on this. This is 40 years in the making. 40 years. We have been fighting for this. Before I was even born, women have been fighting for this in Nebraska. And the lobby will do everything they can to prevent it. They have money. They have deep pockets. But what they don't have is the deep core belief that this is our right. This is our time. Let's make it happen.